Hello everybody, Joel Tadman here from Golf Monthly, and in this video I'm going to be testing out the new Srixon ZX range to really kind of ascertain if Srixon is really a brand that should be coming across your radar in 2020 and beyond, because it doesn't have as much of the limelight as some of the more mainstream brands, maybe doesn't have the tour presence of some of the other brands, although Shane Lowry did win the Open with a Srixon driver last year. So we're going to be testing the new irons and the new driver, see how it performs and see whether it can really compete with the big boys of the golfing world. So let's just talk about the two products I've got here in front of me. Obviously we've got within the ZX range, you've got the ZX5 and the ZX7. I've got two of the ZX7 products here because these are geared more towards the better player, slightly more compact down behind the ball, whereas the ZX5 is slightly more game improvement, a little bit larger, a bit more confidence inspiring behind the ball. So I've been set the ZX7 options here in both the iron and the driver. Starting with the iron, ZX7 iron has something called mainframe technology, so various different cavities and thicknesses behind the face to give you the maximum amount of ball speed while also maintaining that soft feel. It's a forged club, so it will feel nice and soft, and you've also got the updated Tour VT sole here. This is a little ridge that runs along the sole to improve the turf interaction, make it feel a bit quicker and crisper through the ground. Moving on to the driver, so the ZX7 driver has a slightly more compact profile compared to the ZX5. It's got a 15% larger carbon fibre crown, you can see it here on top. And we've also got something called rebound frame technology, so alternating layers of stiffness and flexibility through the head to give you the maximum amount of energy return. At impact, you'll notice the two adjustable sole weights here as well. So this ZX7 comes with a 4 gram and an 8 gram sole weight here, kind of in the heel and toe. I've got the 8 gram weight in the toe, which is slightly heavier just to give me a bit more fade bias. And the ZX5 does have a slightly larger footprint and has more of a fixed weight at the back to give you more forgiveness. So I'm really keen to try both of these out. We went to Foresight Sports HQ in Guildford to test both of these on the GC Quad launch monitor before heading over to the range here at West Hill to hit some balls to observe ball flight and the feel and sound of these clubs. So I've got the Srixon ZX7 iron in the NS Pro Modus 3 Tour 120 shaft in stiff, and I've got the driver in the Hazardous Smoke shaft in 6.0, so slightly softer than what I normally play, although I'm kind of in between 6.5 and 6 with this Hazardous Smoke range. Worth noting, I've got the 9.5 degree head lofted down to 8.5 degrees, and the 7 iron loft of this ZX7 iron is 32 degrees, so slightly stronger than traditional. So I'm really excited to see how these perform, so let's give them a try. So the first hurdle I think for Srixon to overcome is, do their products look good? And on the face of it, these two clubs that I've got I think look really nice. Starting with the iron, you're down behind the ball, this ZX7 looks really, really smart. It's compact enough for the lower handicapper to play. It's got a hint of offset there, and I'd say mid-thickness top line, really premium kind of satin finish on it. In terms of size, I would say it's very comparable to the new TaylorMade P770 down behind the ball. In terms of the kind of address profile, it's basically exactly the same as that. I think behind kind of the rear of it, I think it looks great. Lots of different kind of subtle cavities here, which provide some shelf appeal. And that sole shape is very pronounced these days. It seems like Srixon make it more pronounced with every generation. There's quite a significant bounce angle there in the middle of the sole, which should, in theory, help with the turf interaction. And then we move on to the driver. This is definitely kind of a slightly more compact profile than the Srixon ZX5 driver. It's a little bit shorter from front to back and a little bit less rounded. That carbon fibre pattern is visible on the top. I wouldn't say it's the easiest to align because there's not much contrast between the face and the top of the head. But that aside, I think it looks really, really cutting edge. Kind of some subtle hints of colours on the top and obviously on the sole. I think this definitely has some shelf appeal, draws you in terms of the features on there. It's obviously got the adjustability as well. So I think looks-wise, the Srixon ZX7 driver and the iron definitely tick the boxes for me. But how does it perform? Let's find out. Right, so let's just talk about the performance of the driver and the iron we got on the GC Quad launch monitor from Foresight Sports before talking about the ball flights that we observed on the range. So we tested the ZX7 iron, and I tested it up against the old Srixon Z765 iron, so an iron that's the same model but 4 years ago, 2 generations old. I thought it'd be an interesting comparison to make You look at the numbers, I'll flash them up on your screen now. The numbers were actually very similar. The same loft, 32 degrees. You're looking at the ball speed, slightly quicker with the ZX7, but not much in it. And you've got the launch, spin, peak height and carry distance, basically exactly the same. And I wouldn't say the ZX7 actually was any more consistent in terms of those front to back distances than the ZX7 So on the face of it, you might think not much has improved from the old generation to this one, but when we tested these irons on the range, the differences in the feel and sound of the ZX7 iron were stark and noticeable. It was a lot softer when we'd hit that club compared it to the 765. The 765 sounded a lot louder and had more of a tingy metallic sound to it, whereas the ZX7 was a lot crisper, much more quieter and had more of a thud to it. And that's definitely an improvement in the sound. It also felt like it was a bit more forgiving as well. So on those off-scent hits, the ZX7 didn't feel as harsh as the Z765. So definitely an improvement that has been made in that time, that 4 years, 2 generations. Not massive amounts of improvement, but this is a kind of mid to low handicap club, so you wouldn't expect huge distance gains given the lofts are the same. Then we transition into the Srixon ZX7 driver. So this is the lower, kind of more penetrating option within the range, and I've got it lofted at 8.5 degrees just to counteract that slightly softer shaft. And you look at the numbers, this is comparable to basically any other driver I've tested. A club speed of 110 converting into ball speed of an average over 158 miles an hour. Decent launch angle of 15 degrees combined with spin at around 2.2. That's good, it's not too low, keeping the ball in the air nicely. Peak height of 40 yards, which is high but not too high, and an average carry of 275 with a maximum shot of 280 yards, which is very, very long indeed. So impressive numbers off the bat from the launch point. Then we took it out onto the range, and what was interesting, we're hitting, obviously it's a hot sunny day here, but it's slightly into the wind, and I was absolutely nutting this driver from Srixon, and it was taking one bounce and flying over the end of the range, and I don't think I've ever done that with any driver I've tested here at West Hill before. So yes, the ground's quite hard, but I thought that was quite interesting. Definitely shows that this driver does perform. It felt absolutely fantastic out the middle because it's got that carbon fibre frame. It provides that really soft, kind of dead, muted sound to it. And really through the hands, there was almost nothing coming back through. It just felt so solid. There was no vibrations coming up into the grip. And as a result, the distances were really, really long, and I felt like they were very consistent as well. And because I got that extra fade bias on the head, I felt like the driver was missing less, so I could really commit to my start lines a lot better, kind of swing through it, not worry about the ball hooking too much. So all in all, really, really impressed with that Srixon ZX7 driver. Surprisingly forgiving, given it is the more compact version in the range, and I think can definitely compete with the big boys on the market. So the big question is, should Srixon be a brand you consider when looking to upgrade your clubs this year or beyond? And I would say, based on the testing of these products here today, it absolutely is a brand you should consider. Starting with the iron, I've been really, really impressed with the looks and the feel of this club, the consistency of it, the repeatability of it, how this club works through the ground. That Tour VT sole really does give you a little bit more, a surprising margin for error on your strike. And also the price of it is very competitive. So this is a forged club coming in at £150, give or take, per club, and I would argue that pound for pound this is one of the best forged irons you can get on the market, along with the new Mizuno JPX 921 Tour model. So definitely an iron to consider if you're looking for a forged iron that's going to give you a soft feel but doesn't want to break the bank. I tested it today up against some of its competitive set that come in at a more premium price, and I'd say this is as good as any of those. So we're talking about T100, the new TaylorMade P7 MC iron, and the Mizuno MP20 MMC, all very comparable with this club. So I'm very, very impressed with this. And then moving on to the driver, we talked about how competitive it was in terms of distance. I don't think you're losing out really in terms of forgiveness either. It's a very solid feeling club, and coming in at £449, it's a competitive price point. It's lower than a lot of the premium driver brands. It's the same price as the Mizuno ST200 range, which I was also really impressed with. So definitely worth testing this alongside that driver if you're looking for a model that comes in at a slightly lower price point. Really impressed with the adjustability. I think it works. Definitely seemed to negate my miss to the left. The adjustability is quite confusing, so I recommend going through a custom fitting process if you can to get fully dialed in. It can be a bit mind-boggling to understand what all the different settings mean. It's not the clearest of labeling on there, but that's the only really kind of negative I would have about this club. I think it feels great, performs really well, and offers some pretty decent value. So Srixon ZX range, obviously I know I've only tested the 7 series and you've got the 5 series as well, which obviously is a little bit more forgiveness and distance, potentially worth comboing with the ZX7 in terms of creating a set that's going to give you forgiveness in the long irons and scoring precision in the short irons. You could definitely do that by mixing the 7 and 5 series within a set. So definitely worth a try if you're looking to upgrade your clubs this year. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, this comparison test. Do comment on the video if you have any questions, or if you've used this Srixon ZX7 or ZX5 driver, and what did you think of it? I'd love to hear from you, and do click the like button if you like what you're watching. But from very sunny and warm West Hill Golf Club, it's goodbye from me. I'll see you next time.